Hello everybody. All right, so for today's video, I want to try something a little different and do a bit more of an unstructured video. I want to go and talk about some of the Apex basics. And I think for today's video, we can talk about lists, maps, and how we can use them when it comes to SOQL statements. So just jumping into it right away. The way we define a list is by typing out list and then the type of list you want. So in this example, I'm creating a list of strings. I'm just going to call it string list. And of course, we could just set it to be null if we want to define it somewhere else down the line. Or if you want to initialize it now, we could just set it to be a new list of strings. And we use parentheses to denote the constructor. Now, if we wanted to initialize inline the string of list, so for example, let's say, in the same line that we're defining our string list, if we wanted to pass in some actual values, what we would do instead is we can create another list just to demonstrate. So I'll call this one string2 list. This would be a new list of strings, and I would use these squirrely brackets to denote that I want to add something in line. So for example, let's add 1, let's add A, and let's add B. So that's how we would do that. Next, let's create a map. To create a map, same thing, we just type in the map keyword, and then we have to specify a key value pair. So for our key, I'll just use a string, and same thing for our value. So what we're saying is we expect a map with a key of string and a value of string. So in this case, I'll just call it map list, and same thing, we could just set it to be null to be defined somewhere else, or we can initialize it inline as well. Same thing here, we can just close it and define it like that. Or if we want to initialize it and add key value pairs inline, we could do the same thing we did with line 7, the list string, and use the squirrely brackets to, oops, that's a map, to define values in line. This is a bit more different. To denote a key value pair, we'll type in the key, and then to denote the value, you use equal sign and then greater than, and then the value itself. So I'll say 1 is equal to A. And if you want to do multiple, then you just use a comma. So it'd be like 2, then equal to, greater than, and then the value. That's how you would do that. And it looks like we have some problems, so let's see if we do have problems. And oh, yep, right here I I initialized a list instead of a map. So once we do that, we can hit save. And on line 8, looks like we have an error issue. Oh, again, my mistakes, not paying attention. So once we take care of that, we now see that we have defined 2 lists and 2 maps. In the first example, we initialized a list of strings with no values inside of it, and in the next example, we initialized a list of strings with the values 1, A, and B. For the map, same thing, we initialized a map of strings, key value pairs, and then in the next example, we initialized a map of strings with actual key value pairs defined in them. 1 and 2 are keys, and A and B are values. Now, kind of what I wanted to talk about is how we can use these to store records that are in our org. So for example, let's say I wanted to retrieve a list of accounts. What I could do is I could specify I want a list of type of count. Account is the object, and I'll just call this account list. And instead of specifying new or defining values inside here, like how we're doing in this example, we'll use a square brackets to denote a SOQL statement, and inside we can specify our SOQL query. So I'm going to say select, and in this case, I'll just grab the name, or I'll grab the ID and the name of the record. And next, we have to specify from which object. So I'll use the from keyword, and I'll say from the account. And normally we would have a criteria that we would use to specify which account. So you could say something like, where the ID is something, or where the name equals like Acme or something. In this case, I don't really have any criteria, so I'm just gonna say limited to 10 accounts. And we can't forget about the semicolon to denote the end of our statement. And that's how we would retrieve a list of accounts. For maps, the thing that's a bit more interesting about this is, in addition to being able to retrieve accounts, and in this case, we're just retrieving the account and we're adding it to this list of accounts. So in this case, since we're retrieving 10, index 0 of account list would have that first record. Index 1 would have the second record. Index 3 would have the record, so on and so forth. But with maps, maps are not ordered, whereas lists are. Maps use key value pairs instead of being ordered like a list. So for a map, I'm going to say, and for maps, the key needs to be unique, or else you won't know, or else the system has no way of knowing which record you want to grab. So in this case, ID is unique enough. So we can say we want to store maps in this order. So where the key is the ID, and then the value being the account. So let's do account map. And same thing here. We could just say select, and then we'll just grab the ID, the name, from account, and limit 10, and add our semicolon at the end. Hit save. And as you can see here, when I tried to save, we got an error in our problems right here. It says illegal assignment from list to map. And that's because normally when we do a SOQL statement, what it's going to be returned is a list. So we need to typecast it to be our map of ID and accounts. And the way we do that is by typing in right next to the brackets new, and then the thing we want. So we want a new map. And what we do is we say we want IDs, accounts, right here. Let's close it off. And then we're going to wrap these brackets in parentheses. So let me go ahead and format it a little bit. When we do that, now what we're doing is we're saying we're going to initialize a map of key IDs and value accounts, initialized right here. And then inside of that, we're loading in this query. And Apex is smart enough to know that the ID is the key, and then the rest, being the records returned, are going to be accounts. So once we hit save, let's go ahead and create some debug statements just to show our work so far. So system.debug. And the first thing is I just want to output all the different variables we've defined. So string list, let's go ahead and output that. And then we'll do the same thing for string list 2, or string 2 list. I guess it probably, yes, string list 2 probably makes more sense. Then next up, let's also grab the map list. And finally, let's grab the map to list right here. Change the name real quick so it makes more sense. Oh, and not finally, we still have 2 more. So let's grab 2 more debugs right here. We're going to output the account list as well as the account map. Now, before we run this, let's just quickly go over it. So for string list right here, we initialized it, but we never added any values in. So right now it's going to be empty. Whereas string list 2, we initialized some values in line. So that should output some values. And same thing for map list. It's empty, but map list 2 has some key value pairs in it. So I think what I'll do is we'll add some spaces and we'll say for, and then we're going to copy it again. And we'll say after, and then in between these right here, let's go ahead and actually add something to our string list, just so you can see the difference. To add an element to a list, you type out the name of the list, and then you do a add, and inside you can specify what you want to add. In this case, since our list is a string, we'll just say we're going to add C. And let's go ahead and add one more. And the way this works is when you do an add, it just adds it to the end of the list. So using this example, this example here, right now there are no elements, so it would be, the index is non-existent. Once we do the add right here, in index 0, we would have element C. And when we do the next add, which is D, index 1 would have the element of D. So having said that, as I said, we're going to do a system.debug. When the list has nothing in it, we're going to add 2 values, and then we're going to debug again, just to see the difference. We'll leave string list 2 alone because it already has something in there, but we will do the same thing for map list. The way we add elements to map list is a bit different. So let's go ahead and do that. And same thing, we'll follow the same convention. We'll say before map list 2 and after map list 2. So in between these right here, let's go ahead and add some key value pairs. So to add a key value pair to map list, you use the put. And again, we have a map string key and value key. So the first thing we're going to put is single quotes, and inside we're going to specify our key. And remember, the key always has to be unique, or else the system doesn't know how to grab the value that you want. So the first one we'll say has a key of 1. Then we use a comma, and the next single quotes will denote the value. So we'll say one key, a value. And let's go ahead and copy that and add one more. Next, we'll say the 2 key has a value of b value. So again, we'll debug or output to the screen before or after it's been initialized, but before it has a value. We'll add some values in, and then we'll debug it out again. And let's go ahead and change this. This is the first map, not the second map. And we'll leave map 2 alone because it already has key value pairs in here. And same thing for count list and account map. These are just retrieving our records via our SOQL queries. So let's go ahead and save all of that. And to get this to output, as you can see here, we are in this class called Playground, and I just wrote all of this code in the constructor. So all we need to do is go to our execute anonymous window, and we just need to initialize that class. So I'm going to say playground PG is equal to new playground. And when we do that, our constructor will run, which is called playground. And we should be able to see some debugs. So let's go ahead and execute it. Once it's done running, I'm going to go ahead and click on this debug only button. And as we can see here, we have some values. So the first line is the before string list. So if we jump back here, it's this line right here, before string list. And as I mentioned before, this string list we initialized, but we didn't provide any values, so it should be empty. Going back here, after string list, that's when we added the C and D. As you can see here, now it contains C and D. The string list 2 was the one that we had already initialized inline right here. So it contains values 1A and B, or sorry, elements 1A and B. As you can see here, 1A and B. and they are ordered. Lists are ordered, so they will have the index in which we provided. So 1 was first, A was second, B was third, as you can see here, 1, A, and B. Moving on, we have our map list. As you can see here, it's been initialized, but it's empty. Then once we do the put for key value pairs, we can see that 1 is equal to A, and then 2 is equul to B. 1 and 2 are keys, and A and B are values. Our map list 2 was the one where we had initialized inline, we had initialized and provided key value pairs inline. So again, 1 equals A, 2 equals B. And going back here, we can see this as well. Now, on to the fun parts, you can see that we have this account list and this account map. Now, if I scroll it to the end, it probably cuts off because the regular debugs don't show everything. A little trick, if you wanted to see everything, you can click here in logs and right click, and then you can either download the log or open the raw log. When you do that, you get everything in the system, as well as like the actual the entirety of the debug. So if you scroll all the way to the right, you can see all the accounts that were read, all 10 of the accounts that were retrieved. I'm going to close this because there's too much information. But as you can see here, we were able to retrieve 10 accounts, each with an ID and a name. And same thing for the accounts. For the account map, it's a bit different, right? Because we specified a key, and maps have keys and values. The keys are unique, and the account doesn't have to be unique. We can see here that for the key, which is this long string of characters, it's associated with an account. And same thing for everything. So here's the second one, here's the third one, so on and so forth. And one distinction to know is that maps don't have order, and lists do. Lists are indexed, maps are not. One thing I didn't specify was how to retrieve from a list or an account. And very quickly, we can show that. So let's say we want to retrieve a value from our account. What we could do is, let's just say account map, and we'll just debug it. So let's retrieve, oh, sorry about that. Let's just say retrieved. And let's say we knew which account we wanted to retrieve. In this case, let's just say we want to retrieve this account right here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the ID, which is this, copy it to my clipboard, and we're going to write the name of the account map. And all we have to do is we can say get. When we do a get, the thing it expects is a key, because as I mentioned before, maps are unique, or map keys are unique. So if we specify this, we're telling the system that we want to go into the account map and grab whatever information about this key right here. So this will retrieve the value associated with this key right here, which would just be the account record that equals this ID. For lists, it's a bit more simple, or rather, it's a bit different. Since lists are ordered, we could simply just say we want to grab, the account at index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, or whatever, whichever index you want. To show that very quickly, we're going to say account list and you could just do also just get. So we're going to say we want to get the 0th index of account list. So with that, let's go ahead and save, and let's rerun our execute anonymous one more time. And then we'll hit the debug only, and then we can see here at the end that this account list, we retrieved the 0th index, which was ID of this and name edge communications. As you can see here from this one, this is the debug where we just output the account list after it was retrieved. That is indeed the 0th index. Then for this line right here, the last one, account map retrieved, we were able to retrieve an account by the ID. As you can see here, this is the ID. It ends with a QAI. If we go back to our playground, you can see here that we indeed asked to get the account that had this ID as a key. So that's pretty much it. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. If you guys enjoy these type of videos that are a bit more unstructured and just kind of more rapid fire, feel free to subscribe. Let me know if you guys have any questions on the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.